festivities that began with the announcement of the GST reforms. Now, the consumption story at one hand, but here we're talking about the unlocking of demand in a huge way. And to be able to see how it's going to pan out, because it's the stock markets that are euphoric about the possibilities that could unfold because of this. But indeed, when you talk about what's happening on the ground, the pass-through, and of course, different sectors are responding differently to the GST 2.0 reforms, at least so far, going by the data that has happened. So how differently is it for the discretionaries, the staples, and indeed for the luxury space as well? Because I imagine there is a difference. But how soon can we expect it? How much is the lag? All of that we are doing a status check on, aren't we, Hiral?
Absolutely. And, you know, the best is to understand who is riding the wave how. I think let's welcome in all our guests over here. You know, we have, put your hands together for Mayank Shah, Vice President of Parle Products. We have Mohit Sud as well, who's joining us, who's the President of Unitary Cooling Products at Bluestar, and Rumit Dugar, who's joining us from BlueStone. I think we're covering all aspects over here, from consumer durables to FMCG and some bit of luxury as well. I think, you know, let me first come and ask this question to Mohit. How is the Josh on the ground? Because, you know, all your car dealers have been talking about, we've sold probably 10 cars in 2 minutes. We've sold probably 50 bikes in X number of minutes. What is the Josh on the ground looking like for a consumer durable company?
Okay, so I don't have the kind of number that some of the car, companies have been doling out. But I think if you just simply look at the period of 22nd to 30th, do we have double-digit growth? The answer is yes, right? Very short period of time, but clearly is a little bit of a crystal ball into the future. So very positive. Of course, a lot depends between now and Diwali. But hi, sir, is the answer.
So bigger baskets now, footfalls are growing. Is that actually happening? Are you actually seeing that happen already? Because a lot of data is suggesting that it's taking a bit of time.
Yeah. So I think if I look at consumer durable specifically and maybe air conditioner specifically, it is seasonal, right? The reality is that it is seasonal. So will we see the kind of uptick that some of the other more festive-led categories will see? The answer is no. But the pent-up demand between August 15th and September 22nd, where people kind of held back purchases, I think that's back, and that's back with a bang. So I think retailers are seeing it, manufacturers are seeing it. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
In fact, you know, I'll take another question with you, but before that, let me go to Mayank. You know, Mayank, we're talking about festivities right now. The question when GST was cut was, that consumers had was, kya packet size chota hoega? Grammage kam ho jayega? Ki sachi mein price kam hoega? Now, that was the major question that consumers had. What has happened on ground? Because when we talk to a lot of dealers and distributors, the translation is something which probably has taken time, and I'm sure it's because of systems as well. What is on-ground reality?
Well, so as you rightly said, you know, there is a bit of confusion, as we say, and as we speak about, you know, GST2. It has taken a bit of time for transition to happen. However, the entire transition is happening in two phases. The first phase is, one needs to understand how typically, you know, FMCG companies work. They work with a lead time of almost about 1.5 to 2 months. So sitting today, I would be planning for what I would be producing in December. Now, that's the kind of lead time I have when I talk about, you know, production and those kind of things. So if I have to make any change, let's say even if I want to make, you know, a biscuit more or less, or if I want to increase 1 rupee or 2 rupee to my pack, I cannot do it. Given that, and given that the date which was given by government was 22nd by when, you know, companies were supposed to be compliant with the lower GST, it was difficult. So we somehow managed, and government also helped in terms of, you know, some relaxation that you can have old MRP and you can, you know, inkjet the new one and all those. So the first phase of transition is where we are seeing lower MRPs. Now that would continue for bigger packs, but for smaller packs where it's difficult, so a 5 rupee goes to 4 rupee 50 paisa, or a 10 rupee pack goes to 9 rupees. And those are the packs which contribute almost about 60 to 70%, two-thirds of the market is, you know, in those price points when you talk about FMCG products, most of FMCG categories. in a scenario like that, it takes a bit of time for any FMCG company to move or do transition. It takes typically about 1.5 months. So mostly from November end to December is when you will start seeing the new packs coming in with, let's say, higher weights and stuff like that. Currently what's happening is that almost all lower MRP packs, or LUPs as we call them, you'd see them at non-standard price points, and they would continue till probably about November end or December, post which you will start seeing regular price
But
points.
I wanted to ask, overall, when you heard about the new reforms and how it's going to roll out and what the government expects of you as well, as a company, what were your expectations? You must have done an assessment at that time. How is it going to reflect on your margins? How does that change the competitive landscape as well? Because your moot strategy is going to be your pricing mechanism over here. Now, how does that entirely change the picture, as it were, in terms of where you position your products in a market that's already flooded with other products, right? The competition landscape in your space, in FMCG, is very strong.
Yeah. So, so competitively, I think, it is going to make a difference because when we talk about possibilities with the kind of GST reduction that government has provided are huge. While, immediately, if I am talking about the next 6 months, since government has made it mandatory to pass back the GST, reduction, you will see a flat reduction of, whatever you have saved happening, and that would probably put almost all companies at par or whatever their competitive, relative positions were prior to this. Post that, it's going to be, challenging. Post 6 months, when companies probably would have a freedom of, revising the rates, largely also because of the inflation and other things, is when you will see competitive intensity increasing. Depending on which company decides to pass back or continue passing back how much.
So you haven't planned that far yet?
It would be depending on how, the competitive intensity at that time would be. Depending on what competition would be doing, a lot would depend on that.
So I think the question from here comes to Rumit, because we are talking of people who save, right? FMCG, yes, probably you will not see a lot of savings. Cooling products, probably people will save. Are you seeing that money that is being saved by consumers become your demand? Because you're talking about a product which is luxury, and gold is not supporting your business right now, right? And you're talking about that dilemma whether I should buy real diamonds or should I buy lab-grown diamonds. Where are you in this entire scenario right now?
See, we are counting on Indian women and gold, right? So you can never go wrong with that. Look, I mean, we are looking at the gold price for, let's say, last month or so. But if you see over the last 2 years, 3 years, the price move has been quite substantial.
Yeah.
And even then, the industry growth has been pretty robust. So the way the consumer outlook and consumer behavior is, it's a very incrementally, it's becoming a more ticket size based behavior, where if it's your anniversary, birthday, and you have a ticket size of, let's say, 50,000, you will go and spend that 50,000, right? So maybe you will get smaller ring, a different type of ring, lower grammage, but that's more an outcome. But I think consumers are having a ticket size based behavior, and I think that is what has been reflecting in industry growth.
So what you're saying is the consumption pattern is now mirroring what's happening in the FMCG space, where small packets are selling. I think it's a world where I think from the HULs to parlays will say that, our 1 rupee packs, 5 rupee packs, these are the ones which are giving us volumes. That's what Mayank was mentioning. If that's the kind of market, Rumit, you're looking at, let's take into consideration, someone who's seeing growth, and you're talking of value-led growth versus volume-led growth. You mentioned growth has been good. Where is the growth coming from?
So, see, in jewelry, the ticket size is a very relative term, right? Because you could have a budget of 50,000, and for you it is a high AOV
high discretionary price point, and somebody could be spending 5 lakhs of AOV, and for them that might be okay, right? So I think AOV is a very relative kind of term, especially in this category, because the category is so large. And it caters to different types of consumers, right? So demand-wise, I think there is demand across the board, across price points. And I think price point relevance is coming more from the fact in terms of how consumption pattern of jewelry is changing. So if you looked at jewelry, let's say 15, 20, 25 years back, it was largely jewelry for the locker, right? Heavy pieces, etc., which you would not wear. But slowly, women also want to wear, right, what they have bought, and thus they want to expand their selection in their wardrobes. So there is that transition slowly that is happening from jewelry for the locker to jewelry for the wardrobe, and that is where we kind of play in.
So overall, I was just wondering whether the GST reforms are good for your businesses or not. Are they actually something that you're looking forward to? Because the other way of looking at it is that if you're going to save that much more, then you're also going to invest, because now look at the way the markets are moving, look at the IPOs. You know, what are you going to do with what you're saving right now? And that's a strategy. And people are rethinking what they're doing with their money. So in terms of the GST reforms, do you think this is good for your business? Is it eventually going to show in stronger balance sheets? It's going to push up your profitability?
Okay, so simple answer, yes. But the way I see it, it's not so much a profit lever, but more a revenue and penetration lever.
Okay.
Right? So if you take ACs, for example, penetration is about 7-8%, depending on what source, right? The country is getting hotter, the country is getting richer. AC is now almost a necessity, if I may say it, right? After a very long period of time, a very tangible drop in price has come, right? Anybody who's going to invest 40,000 rupees in AC can see a very tangible 3,000 to 4,000 rupee drop in price, right? And price is always a great lever for underpenetrated consumer categories, right? FMCG is the example, but that's as true for something like AC. So is GST going to help? Definitely yes. Why? New users to the category, volume uptick, and greater penetration. I mean, the margins will follow, but I think fundamentally it's a great consumer driver.
In fact, to take this point forward, we are talking about the penetration and tier 2, tier 3 cities becomes important. In fact, the previous panel also mentioned SIPs of 100 rupees, 200 rupees, and the reason why the regulator is doing that is to see that penetration happens. Let's take that conversation forward here. What is the shift in trend that you're seeing when it comes to penetration? Because all this while, everyone is talking about growth from the rural markets. Urban market growth is yet to pick up. Are you seeing any change in terms of trends, Mayank?
Well, so for a good amount of FMCG categories, I think, penetration is something that's already given now. It's about the consumption. A little different from durables, where, we are talking about benchmarking our consumptions with the Western world. So while, most processed food categories or FMCG categories may have good penetration, but if we really compare our per capita consumption compared to the Western world, we are still, way behind them. The way GST reforms or other reduction in GST or GST 2.0 is going to help us is that it's going to increase the disposable income in the hands of the consumers. They're going to buy more of it. They have that's indirect increase in their income, and that's what they are going to spend on multiple things, which would also include FMCG. A fair share of that would also come to FMCG, and that's what I think most FMCG companies are banking on. So the next lever of growth is going to be driving the consumption, given the penetration is already there.
Here we are talking about penetration that's happened in tier 2, tier 3 cities already. You spoke about ticket size. Are you seeing aspirational buyers come in from tier 2, tier 3 cities? And is that a market that a company like yours wants to cater to?
So look, jewelry is again a very interesting category because if you look at the size, it's about $80-90 billion category, which is massive. So at an absolute jewelry level, India has good penetration, right? But when we go to tier 2, tier 3 markets, what we see is the product market gap is very large, right? So the consumer there is aspirational. The consumer there is on digital platforms, looking at trends, designs, etc. And they want to buy from brands. They want to buy new designs, new products. And when we enter some of those markets, we see very, very strong adoption because there is a massive product market gap. So I don't think it's so much tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It's about, at least for us, it's about whether you are able to address that product market gap, which we think is still very, very large in our category.
So how much of investments are you making in creating touch points right now? I'm just wondering because in terms of the digital play, for you, this touch point is very important. And though you're talking about this uptake that, people will go through a lot of websites, they'll know what they want, but they want to try it out. Has that really changed your game at all, your strategy in terms of, because real estate is so expensive. And I don't know how many stores you've opened in recent times, but give us an indication of how this changes the dynamic of your industry.
So again, in this category, something very interesting that we are bringing to the table is, unlike all consumer categories, whether you're in a digital world or a physical world, you can actually go and browse, right? And you're not forced to buy. Typically in jewelry as a category, it's a over-the-counter kind of experience, which was there 40 years back in every category. It's a high-pressure environment and all of that. And consumers are experiencing every category online and offline in a free browsing, no pressure, interact with the product. But in jewelry, you can't do that. You can't create that kind of aisle experience in a store. And thus, what we are seeing is very, very strong adoption of digital, which allows women, men also, to browse freely, experience the product, but they still want to touch and feel. And thus omni-channel is the perfect experience where you use different channel for different purposes. And you rightly said it's also an experience category. You want to touch and feel it, and you want to enjoy the pleasure of buying.
Correct.
It is like also buying a car, right? You'll never click a buy now button, right? Although you may make up your mind.
But is AI helping bridge that gap that is required?
So I think presenting jewelry online, so it's unlike, again, other categories, you just can't create a photo or take a photo and present it online. It doesn't look very good. It's not very engaging. It's not a specification-based product. You need to make somebody fall in love with that product or the design.
But so you also like looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, okay, you don't have this product right now. And this has happened actually to friends who've gone to one of your stores, and you don't have the product, but they will be able to show how this kind of product will look on you. So I'm just wondering how innovation is coming through even at these experience stores.
So absolutely. Innovation will come at all levels, right? In terms of how you engage with the product, in terms of the relevance of the products. For example, we use a lot of AI and machine learning in the way we merchandise our stores. And we take a lot of data in terms of traffic and what people are browsing online, how much time they're spending on that product. And thus, that is the product that should ideally make it to the store, right?
So you're making those decisions based on that data?
Yes, absolutely. So we don't have merchandisers in the company. We run more than 290 stores. And we have no merchandiser who decides this product should go in that store. It's all algorithm and machine learning driven, which is looking at various data points.
No, so to add to this, what about try-at-home facilities? Because a lot of jewelers, specifically when it comes to low ticket size products, are following a model where you send jewelry home. Is that something which is sustainable, number one, and doable?
See, it's absolutely doable. I think the way to think about this category is not in context of breaking it down through channels, right? Like, okay, this is online, this is offline, this is try at home. It's one integrated experience. It's an important purchase. It's a high value purchase. And you want to create the best customer experience for the customer. So whatever works for them and the way they want to use any of the channels, you have to allow them to use those channels freely.
Okay, and this strategy I think applies across categories, right?
Yes.
When I come to even consumer durables, how is that omni-channel presence helping, a company like yours grow, number one? And two, for a company like Blue Star, what happens is you're talking about a lot of after-sales service that has to happen. So how do you solve for those challenges as well? Because right now you're talking about a surge in demand. Two, you're letting people probably buy at huge discounts online. And then the shebang follows.
Okay, so I think in any large durable category, any large appliance category, it's a very non-linear shopper journey, right? You might research online, buy offline. You might research offline, buy online, right? So there is no path to purchase, or there's no clear shopper path to purchase. It's all a big tangle, right? So I think being available everywhere is just fundamental and basic, right? I think the trick is for retailers or manufacturers to kind of take the shopper through this purchase and journey of choice, right? Yeah. Because it's a first-time buy, right? She's not sure, or the family is not sure what AC to buy, how much does it cost, what's cost of after-sales service, what's cost of installation, AMC. So it's there's lots of stuff that you need to teach her, and almost how do I put it? You need to open up for her, right? So availability across channels, touch points, and taking the purchase, the family through the position is almost key. It's fundamental, and whoever does it well,
so
I think
is what I was
wins.
meaning, that when you're talking about the new GST structure, the new reforms, that perhaps is going to stimulate people into a buying decision for a consumer durable. But I'm just wondering, when you give out this kind of information, because there are electricity costs to consider, there are all of those permutations and combinations when you consider a certain product over others, would that change their mind? Because the GST reduction, like you said, would be this much, but the other costs involved are about these many. So that kind of, at a company level, how much does it change for you? And at a consumption level, does it actually materialize into real gains?
Okay. So I think almost connecting back to your previous question, there are two Indias today, right? There is, if I call it, there's the Sandra from Bandra, and there's the Geeta from Gorakhpur, right?
Who from Gorakhpur again?
There's Sandra from Bandra and Geeta from Gorakhpur.
Geeta from Gorakhpur, got
it. This is off Damodar Mal's supermarket
Yes.
wala. But I think the amazing thing is that Geeta from Gorakhpur has aspirations no lesser than Sandra from Bandra, right? So reality is consumption. India is getting richer. The world is getting hotter, and prices are coming down, right? So it's almost like the perfect storm for growth, right? Because whenever you give access through any large ticket size item, volume's bound to come, right? And very confident of the profits, because with volume you get scale, with scale you get savings and you get profit. So I think.
But do margins get squeezed?
I don't think margins will get squeezed. I think margins will remain constant. We won't see an uptick in margins because of GST, but I think the volumes will really give you scale, right?
You agree? Margins don't get squeezed?
No, in fact, they would improve, because I think some of your fixed cost, they get apportioned very well. So
Your economies of scale come to play,
Economies
right?
of scale are coming into play.
And
Is this... just go on.
No, okay. So my question to this was, all of this we're talking from a boost perspective, from a domestic market side of you, right? The reason the government came up with these reforms was tariffs.
Right.
To tread with what happens on US tariffs.
Absolutely.
So far, conversations still continue. I think no one better than Rumit that I should ask you this. How are you dealing with that aspect? Do you think the domestic growth story will be able to tide the wave of the impact US tariffs could have?
See, I think all of us are largely focused on the Indian domestic market, right? And I think...
No, maybe from an industry perspective.
Look, I think from an industry perspective, see, the industry is quite large, and different parts of industry will have different kind of markets and problem statements. For us, we are largely, in fact, 100% India focused. I think this whole tariff noise is actually translating more at the asset prices level, especially at least in our context in how gold prices have been kind of moving, which is which has got like multiple variables, right? And tariffs is kind of one of them.
But now Diwali being the consumption season, I'm just saying that for the festivities, in terms of strategy, marketing strategies as well, how has that push been from your side to be able to latch on to the opportunity that has presented itself? Yes, tariffs, yes, GST reforms, but how does that really alter your approach to how to best make use of the situation that has been presented to you? Have you made any tangible changes in your strategies? And if so, what are they?
I think very simply put, given how seasonal a category ACs are, you typically tend to advertise only pre-summer, right? But I think we've taken a call because this is such a tangible consumer vector of growth to bring back advertising dollars during this season, right? Something that we've not done in the past, right? You typically tend to put all your advertising dollars right before summer, before the load-in equivalent. But this is such a great consumption opportunity that we have put some money into demand generation.
That's excellent. For you?
Yeah, see, typically festive seasons, augur very well for demand for FMCG products, and this would only act as a catalyst. So, in fact, most FMCG companies have increased their advertising spends. This is like double bonanza. You anyways, were banking on, given that we had good monsoons and we were expecting, good demand. We've seen urban recovery happening, revival in demand in urban India in last few months. So we were expecting good demand. Add to it this GST booster. So most companies, I would say FMCG, have gone all out in terms of advertising and stuff like that. You will see that happening.
Like Sone Pe Suhaga.
Sone Pe Suhaga. And Rumit, one word from you. How would you describe this festive season for your business?
No, we always look forward to the festive season. We have a lot of seasonality in our business, of course. And the natural A&P, etc., is kind of reflects that seasonality. It's not so much driven by GST or anything, but just the natural seasonality that is there in our business.
So, I mean, obviously nothing changes too much as far as your business is concerned. That demand, like you said, women are always going to want great jewelry, and that doesn't change. So, good for you. But thank you very much. This gives us great insights.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this panel, because we're talking about insights from the consumer durable space, the FMCG space, and something which is luxury, which all of we women like. I think you're wearing a stud as well, so I think you're one of the prospects as well. So,
good. Thank you very much
for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. A very happy Diwali.
Thank you. Happy Diwali.
Thank you for having us.